The last game I reviewed was... well, it was a chore to finish. While writing the 40-minute script that became a 15-minute script, and then an exacerbated tweet, I promised myself the next game I reviewed was going to be one of my absolute favorites. Something that I play at least once a year and find it effortless to talk about. Towards the end of my struggles, I developed a hankering to relax with exactly this kind of game. It's one that lends itself to play sessions short or long, drops you immediately into gameplay, and is the kind of lighthearted that always makes me laugh. It's also unfairly derided as the lesser of another game in the same franchise from the same developer, Simpsons Road Rage. About 20 years ago, I bought Simpsons Road Rage for the license and was amazed to find myself staying up past 3 a.m., night after night, trying to eke out a few more points to my high score. I was developing strategies, memorizing routes, and testing different characters like I was preparing for EVO. My time in American arcades was a decade removed from the high score craze of Pac-Man and Donkey Kong, so this obsession was new to me. As critics and lawyers were quick to point out, Road Rage is a crazy taxi-like. If you're not familiar, it means the core gameplay is driving with prejudice through the streets of Springfield to ferry its iconic denizens where they want to go while under a progressively restrictive time limit. Performing well rewards bonus cash and, more importantly, time. Being that it's arcade-inspired, your worst enemies are the invisible scales that inevitably tip far enough out of favor that no amount of skill or practice can avoid the game over screen. Road Rage is easy to pick up and play, with tight and responsive controls. Sometimes too tight. Rounds are quick, with my best runs clocking in at 7 minutes. It doesn't eat at your allowance, as the cost to retry is only a lengthy load screen. Regardless of graphic fidelity, speeding through a city, smashing into cars and people is an activity I never grow tired of. Amping the action is a snappy soundtrack from Christopher Ting, who was composing for Futurama at the time. Wrapped around all of this is a fabric woven with 12 years of Simpsons fan service and over an hour of voice work from the original cast. This is a fun fucking game. It's also a bit janky. It may be an all-time favorite, but I am prepared to discuss the flaws alongside the strengths. Hop in, don't sit on my nachos, and let me explain to you why you're wrong for thinking Simpsons Road Rage is a bad game. The story to Simpsons Road Rage is minimal and befitting of its arcade inspiration. Burns has privatized the public transit and rolled out unsafe atomic buses that irradiate their passengers.
Hold up, is this suggesting clean energy is bad? Who put politics in my video game?
Seeing an opportunity to make some cash, Homer and friends sawzall the tops off their cars and become self-employed taxi drivers.
Just get to the game already!
The back of the box says everyone is earning money to purchase the transit system back from Mr. Burns, but I kinda doubt this was Homer's first idea. Starting with the worst of it, Road Rage has 4 game modes, and Mission Mode is the weakest on offer. It features 10 missions that are short enough you'll spend more time waiting for them to load than you will playing them. The objectives for each mission are pretty uninspired. 8 of them task players to crash into a set number of specific objects, like having Abe here crash into 8 trash cans at the Springfield Dam for reasons. The other 2 require taking someone to a destination while avoiding Mr. Burns, which is what you'll be doing in the Road Rage mode anyway. Most of what you need to hit is on a set path that isn't well communicated, and their blue domes are hard to spot at a distance. I could be generous and say this mode lets players try out characters they maybe haven't unlocked yet while also developing familiarity with the controls, but the time spent with each one is brief enough, you're more likely to grow tired of the precious few voice lines the missions are allotted than you are to develop an aptitude with any one character. Most of these you'll pass in the first go, but a few of them, namely Abe's and Lisa's missions, will see you restarting at least a handful of times. While devoid of substance and lacking polish, Mission Mode only takes about 20 minutes to complete, and it unlocks the car Homer designed in Season 2. So that's something, I guess.
Whoa! I don't want to take that trip again anytime soon.
Road Rage is what can be considered the game. It starts with one neighborhood, and with the 5 Simpson family members as playable characters. The cash earned from each round is added to a running total. At specific dollar amounts, players are prompted to unlock a new driver or neighborhood. What makes Road Rage fun for me, round after round, year after year, is how quickly and, dare I say, crazy the action unfolds. All but the biggest vehicles explode off the starting line. The streets are packed with cars, breakable objects, and people that bounce off your hood in that hilariously juvenile way only early 2000s video game physics can provide. Its straightforward gameplay and responsive controls hide a few tricks to discover for players that like to dissect games for optimum strategies. The focus and twitch reactions needed to navigate the unpredictable traffic gives me a rush like playing a round of deathmatch. Regardless of how well I perform, the timer always wins, but it's a thrill knowing that this round might become the best one I've ever played. That said, I do understand the criticisms laid against Road Rage. Half the game's maps are overly simple with no room for nuance or strategy. Physics objects aren't garbage collected, and the larger ones can block smaller streets. The vehicle physics are floaty, causing cars to leave the ground at high speeds and on tight turns. Collision for the static environment rarely matches the artwork and feels wildly unfair when you run into it.
Simpsons watch.
Just think how fast we could go if my siren worked.
Collision in general doesn't behave as it should, with players' cars sticking and clipping through stuff rather than bouncing off of it. What I've heard most is how the neighborhoods and characters are locked behind a tedious grind. If you couldn't tell by the fact I'm still playing this game 20 years later, I do not find it tedious. I also hear Road Rage isn't worth playing because Hit and Run is a better version of it. Well, in response to that, I offer you Rob's guide to help people who won't shut up about Hit and Run to maybe appreciate Road Rage a little bit. For starters, the game isn't putting its best foot forward. Difficulty defaults to easy, which pays out less money, and isn't as forthcoming with the fast bonus. Each fast bonus is an extra 3 seconds, which is enough time to grab another fare and keep the round going. My payouts for Evergreen Terrace on easy rarely break 10 grand, whereas my payouts for hard mode on the same map are always higher than 12. Point is, someone playing on hard is going to reach the unlock milestones 30% faster than playing on easy. It should go without saying that your playtime feels more rewarded this way. As was the style at the time. There's a hand on screen pointing you where to go. It's entirely dependent on roads and teaches you not to look for shortcuts. Keep in mind your destination is always visible on the minimap. Use it to get your heading while you wait for your fare to hop in. Then let your own curiosity guide you to discovering shortcuts and building map knowledge. When choosing your unlocks, focus on neighborhoods before getting new drivers, or at least alternate between them. You are forced to unlock neighborhoods in a specific order, but when playing from a new game on hard, it could take fewer than 20 minutes. Even less if you ignore Springfield Mountains, which you should. If you only unlock new drivers, you'll likely burn out playing Evergreen Terrace. Not really something I can relate to after grinding it for 2 decades, but... Speaking of neighborhoods, Evergreen Terrace, the Entertainment District, and Downtown should be the primary maps in your rotation. Maybe even the only ones? Evergreen Terrace has the widest roads and is the most predictable for consistent high scores. The Entertainment District seems restrictive at first, but its easy to spot shortcuts make good use of its wraparound design and varying elevation. It also has a ton of crap to smash into, which never gets old. Downtown may look aesthetically similar to Entertainment District, but it plays like no other neighborhood in the game. Its deceptively open design lends well to saying, fuck it, let's see where this goes. The remaining 3 maps are restrictive in ways that leave no room for exploration, or they outright punish it. I'd say give them a go once or twice for the sake of curiosity, but if you try to play them regularly, you'll likely throw your controller out of frustration. My last piece of advice is, everything is better with a friend. Playing Road Rage while passing the controller back and forth eases the tedium while letting you watch for gags and potential shortcuts without the pressure of delivering a fare. If you're not motivated to best your own high scores, then perhaps you'll be tempted to one-up your friends. And when you're both familiar with the handling and neighborhoods, you can spice things up by playing head-to-head. Head-to-head is the highest peak Road Rage can achieve with regards to hysterical fun, and I truly believe you're missing out if you've never played it. Fare payment is flat, so the goal is to simply deliver more fares than the other player. You steal or lose a fare by crashing into the other player's car. The person without a passenger is always faster, which leads to tense chases as you frantically try to outwit one another. With a complete absence of timers, you can devote all of your focus to hoodwinking your friend. If you've been given the slip and it's not possible to catch up in time, hang back because the next fare always spawns closer to the player who didn't score. Try not to be too obvious about it or else they'll do the same to you. If you followed my guide, then you should have multiple maps to play on and 2 players with at least moderate knowledge about layouts and shortcuts. Even the lesser maps like Dam and Nuclear Plant become enjoyable arenas when you're trying like mad to chase or dodge the other player. I can't stress enough how insanely fun this can be when playing with your best friend. Don't take my word for it. See for yourself in this Cowch frontation where I challenged Noah.
Well, I'm slowly catching you, I guess.
No!
Hehehe.
No! People, move! Rocks, move! Lines, power lines, move! I don't know where I'm
What are
going
you
at this point.
doing?
I don't know, I'm just trying to get the fuck away from you. Ah, I'm stuck, I'm stuck,
Oh,
I'm
no.
stuck, I'm stuck, I'm stuck, I'm stuck, I'm stuck, I'm stuck. Get back here! Oh shit, you're flying out of the sky! No!
Aha!
Yes!
Ah, you fucking game!
Oh, yes!
Look at you! You've got 9 fucking thousand. I'm at 3.
While racing against the clock, you're moving too fast to appreciate the astonishing number of references and visual gags they crammed into these maps. You have just enough time to think, hey, that's the mini-golf course from that one episode. Oh, look, Truckosaurus. Hey, the Leftorium.
This place has got everything.
Then you're speeding off to take Ralph to the box factory for the 20th time.
Yay, boxes!
You're also likely to miss a lot of useful shortcuts that blend into the environment. This is where Sunday Drive comes in. Sunday Drive ditches the time limit and allows players to tour the first 3D realization of Springfield in a video game. I've just been informed of a point-and-click adventure game called Virtual Springfield that was, in fact, the first 3D representation of Springfield in a video game. This is actually pretty cool. I stopped watching The Simpsons around the time Road Rage released, so for me, this is a time capsule of The Simpsons as I remember them. It's incredibly nostalgic and crazy to think the show had only been around for just over a decade when Road Rage was made. I know now it's been out for over 30 years, but it kind of already felt like 30 years back in 2002. And as I drove around looking for gags to showcase during this part of the review, the Lodeller kicked in, and I found myself marveling at how much stuff the environment artists had created that no one is going to see unless they let themselves get swept away on a Sunday drive. For example, in the Evergreen Terrace neighborhood, we have an in-world ad for the then up-and-coming Simpsons skateboarding, and a fourth wall ad for a road rage competition.
Does anyone know if that actually happened?
In the Springfield Mountains, the minimap shows the train tracks as drivable road, but both ends of it are blocked off. I wonder if the tracks were meant to be a shortcut with the train riding around in a loop, or perhaps the train looped every neighborhood as they technically connect with one another. In the final game, every junction to another neighborhood is unattractively blocked off. I know there's stories about Hit and Run being recreated in Unreal Engine 5, and, I hope people bring this map with it. The Springfield Mall makes up one half of the nuclear plant neighborhood. Most of that half is a vast, uninteresting parking lot that no one ever wants to be picked up in or dropped off at. Maybe they intended a gag of having you drive people to their cars so they didn't have to walk. As for the mall interior, you only drop off fares right inside this one entrance, meaning you'll never get to drive up to the second floor or terrace through these other stores. They could have gotten away with not modeling the interior at all, but they did. And they could have gotten away with repeating the same 2 or 3 shop names, but each shop has a unique name. I love extra details like this. Downtown is the most densely packed map for references to the show, and I could probably talk about it for an hour. Seeing as you don't want to hit things when you're playing Road Rage mode, you maybe never notice the head of Jebediah Springfield falls off if you crash into the statue. You'll also never see that someone took the time to model 3 floors to the parking garage of the Springfield Coliseum. There's even ramps at the top to launch off of. And just like the mall, you'll never have to come up here when you're playing Road Rage. So if you're wondering why the load times are so bad, this attention to detail is why, but I honestly wouldn't want any of this changed. It feels like they made a city first and built a gameplay around it, for better and for worse. At any rate, there's a lot to see and appreciate, so if you own Road Rage, definitely take it off your shelf for a Sunday drive. There's a lot more to Road Rage that I could talk about if I was someone who made multi-hour retrospectives. I did find an article by InputMag from November last year where Brian Vanhooker interviewed several folks who worked on Road Rage. There's a lot of great behind-the-scenes tidbits like how Simpsons Wrestling released during development and was so bad Matt Groening took his name off it. He allegedly said, "If I don't like Road Rage, I'm never going to put my name on another Simpsons game again." He not only liked it a lot, but would play it for hours at a time with his son. You'll also read how the developer's sentiment mirrors the popular opinion in that they feel Hit and Run is the superior game. Paraphrasing this next quote, "Hit and Run is a far better game, but if Hit and Run came first, there's no way it would have been as good." And I guess that's what I'm hoping everyone takes away from watching this video. To brush off Road Rage as inferior and not worthy of your time is doing a disservice to the developers and their hard work. I've linked the article in the description and encourage you to go read it. Sometimes you play a game over and over because it's fun, and sometimes you do it because it's all you had. For me, Simpsons Road Rage was both. In my opinion, the gameplay is solid enough that repeating the same maps and hearing the same dialogue for hours and hours has not yet gotten old. I get to drive fast, smash into things, challenge myself to play better, and the Simpsons cast is with me for every turn of the odometer. I mean, come on.
Need I say more?
I just signed myself up to review Hit and Run, didn't I?